Greetings everyone, it's Anna. I hope you've all been doing well and keeping yourselves safe. It is time for my July wrap up. I have some time to film finally, so let's jump straight into it. So I've got my stats to go through. So in terms of the books I read 3 audiobooks and 1 physical book. I don't feel too bad because I have been so busy with sewing up orders for my store and I've only really had time to read or like listen to audiobooks. I've really missed reading physical books, so I'm really happy to be able to start doing that again. In terms of the genres that I read from, I did end up reading 2 romance books and then 2 sci-fi books as well. I am trying to read more sci-fi, so I'm really happy with those numbers. And I mean, one of them is already in a series that I have been reading already, but that's by the by. Let's jump into the recap. We are going to start off with The Prince Trap by Talia Hibbert, which I gave a 3.5 star. This is, well, it was a fun time and it has the tropes that I tend to really enjoy reading in romance. So we have the fake dating and we have a bit of royalty going on in there as well. So with this book, we have a prince who's kind of like the black sheep of the family, and he meets this young woman. I think she's called Cherry. He meets Cherry, and because he wanted to give her school a grant, and then they kind of hit it off and they are caught in a compromising situation. So in order to avoid a scandal, because he's literally just weathered a huge scandal, he proposes that they fake date. So that's kind of where everything kicks off from. And I think overall the book was a really fun time. I thought the romance was very, very steamy. And I've heard this of Talia Hibbert before. I do own Get a Life Chloe Brown, so I do really want to get around to reading that quite soon. But I thought the romance was really steamy, which I enjoyed. But I think where it lacked a little bit for me was the build-up. I'm all for the build-up because I feel like the couple, things happened too quickly with this couple. There wasn't really much build-up or longing or pining. And I feel like when you have that in a book, it kind of makes the getting together all the more worth it when it does happen. But this couple just, I think they were like kissing on the first date and all of that stuff. Like there was a lot of chemistry between the main couple, but I think things happened way too quickly. And I also feel that there was points in the book, like the middle, where not much really happened. It was just them kind of being annoyed and holding back and kind of being a little bit annoying. But I think overall it was a fun time to read, which is why I gave it 3.5 stars. But like I said, I do wish that there was a little bit more build up, but otherwise a fun time. Now I have The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. This one I gave a 3.75, and really, well, I'll go into that in a second. So basically this book was based around a she's a wedding planner, and she gets left on her wedding day. Her fiance runs away because he didn't want to do it, and so she blames her brother-in-law to be for breaking up the wedding. So she's holding this grudge against this guy for this whole time. And so she then tries to vie for a job later on, like a few years later, and runs into her ex-fiance and her brother-in-law to be. So the romance is between the brother-in-law and also the girl. So the reason why I gave the 3.75 is because I really enjoyed how they added her Brazilian culture, because the main character is Afro-Brazilian, and there was lots of talk about the food, and there was a lot of intertwining of the culture within the book. I really enjoyed hearing about that. Like some points I was legit hungry hearing about the descriptions of the food. In terms of the romance, I would say that the conflict felt very one-sided, because the main character was holding this grudge against her brother-in-law, and she was this kind of person who, because of being somebody who is Afro-Brazilian, and she's had to kind of fight certain fights throughout her life, she's guarded herself, which is something that I can 100% relate to. But because of that, the brother-in-law was very open. He really wanted to get to know her, and he made it quite clear that that's what he wanted. So the conflict felt very thrown together and cobbled together. Like it didn't feel very natural, because if they sat down and had a real feeling about, like a real conversation about their feelings, there wouldn't really be any conflict in this book. So to me, it kind of felt a little bit contrived. I can't really say there's anything really much to write home about this book. It was just the cultural aspect that I found I really enjoyed. The romance, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't really standoutish, so, or didn't stand out to me. So it was a fun time. but it wasn't my favourite romance book that I've ever read. Right, so the next book I have is Descender, Volume 1 by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. This is a sci-fi graphic novel set in a time where people are living off-world and these giant androids come and basically decimate the planet, and so now people are very wary of androids, where at this time it was people were like building them and it was very much becoming ingrained in people's lives. So they destroyed androids, and so we follow this this little kid here. He is Tim 21. He's an android that kind of wakes up a certain 10 years after the great android culling, and so we are following him as he's chased by bounty hunters, and he's also tried to be chased by some scientists because they figured out there's a connection with him and the big robots that came to destroy everything. Like, it's all a bit of a mystery right now. I gave this a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was a very solid start to the series, and there was a lot of building of what's going to happen in the plot later on, and you can kind of tell there's a mystery at the crux of the whole story. I did end up picking up volume 2, and so I'm probably going to reread the last few pages of this one so that I can jump back into this, because I do really think it was a solid start. Now, I think I mentioned in my TBR video that I thought I was going to end up crying. I didn't quite do that in this graphic novel because, like I said, this is just really a setup for the rest of the series. And I think it's been mentioned a couple of times from you guys that you do kind of need to read graphic novels all in one go. So I'm kind of hoping that once I get stuck in, I might pick up volume 3 as well, because I do think that I'm going to enjoy this because I'm already very intrigued with where this is going. Last but most certainly not least, I have Network Effect by Martha Wells. This is actually the first fully fledged novel for the Murderbot Diaries, but you do need to have read the 4 other novellas in the series. Like, you can't just jump in, you will be lost. Now, the Murderbot Diaries follows Murderbot. He is a security unit. He's very cynical. He's very sarcastic. He just wants to be left alone and watch his dramas in his head. He has them downloaded there. He just wants to chill, do his job, and just enjoy life, like most of us would like to do. Each of the novellas followed him in the crazy scenarios he got himself into, so they were kind of episodal in feel, but there was an overarching story that I feel kind of concluded in the 4th novella. So the book follows something completely different, so it's a different storyline. Now, what I really enjoy about this is that it's very character driven, and I would probably say that the Murderbot Diaries is probably one of my favourite sci-fi series yet. I haven't read a whole load of sci-fi to be able to say that, but it's pretty much quite up there. Now, if you're looking for extensive world building, I honestly don't think you're going to get that with this series. It's really about the people and the relationships. I feel like every character has a very distinct voice in this book, and you kind of learn to love people as you meet them. Even the side characters, you really do end up falling in love with a lot of people, and that's why to me this book was a 5-star read to me. Like, how could I not rate it 5 stars? It was such a fun time, and when I listened to the audiobook, which I do highly recommend because it is a really fun time. I feel like the narrator really gets across his sarcasm and his fed upness in his situations that he gets put into. But yeah, for me, I really enjoy this series for the characters in there. I've got a very short story that I can't remember what. I think I was going to join some sort of Zoom meeting or something that Martha Wells was holding, and I never ended up going, but I still got the short story. So I'm going to end up reading that at some point because I miss being in this world so much. You're not going to get any world building or extensive things like that. So if you're looking for character driven stories and you really like sarcastic, grumpy security units, then give the Murderbot Diaries a try, because it has my seal of approval. I love it. It's just chef's kiss. So folks, those are all of the books that I managed to read in the month of July. We were close to slumping, but I'm glad I got some books in there, and I really enjoyed, for the most part, the books that I did end up reading. So let me know if there are any that you have read, what your thoughts are, and if there are any that sound like they might be of interest to you. Would love to hear that. If you enjoyed that video, please feel free to give the like button some love, and if you would like to see more from myself, then you are more than welcome to subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.